What's up, and welcome to your Oscars edition, post-Oscars edition of Nowstalgia Pod, coming at you Sunday night. Dave Martinson, fresh off that Cali trip. Pat Sheehan, fresh off that East Coast, always. Man, before we jump too far into it, if you are watching us live right now, please hit that subscribe button. But if you are catching us later on, still hit that subscribe button and go to soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod to find all the ways to listen to Nowstalgia. We bring you the content all year long, not just right after the Oscars, but we've been building up to this for a while. And we talked on our last podcast, Dave, about how the Oscars had a lot of potential issues and that this show was primed to be a disaster. No host, continuously throwing out ideas of how to change the show, whether it's new awards, cutting categories being broadcast live, not showing all of the best original song nominees playing live, performances, and they pretty much backed off on all of those. But the one thing that we said would make this show a definite disaster was if we had a problematic Best Picture winner, and there was two of them in this field. There's Green Book and Bohemian Rhapsody. All those other issues kind of worked themselves out. There was no problems with the performances. There was no, most popular picture category. All the categories were presented live, and other than, I think it was like makeup, who had a terrible speech. They all did a great job with their speeches afterwards.
Right.
But man, that Best Picture, give me your up and down throughout the night. How are you feeling?
Yeah. So I think the lack of a host, which was obviously on everyone's mind from the start, went off. The show really went off pretty smoothly. Like Queen opening it up, I guess, is fine. Kind of funny that like they're going on tour with Adam Lambert, but get your money. This movie made $850 million, so they've never been more famous. It's wild.
No Grammys,
right? And then so I guess that's like a weird way to start, but whatever. But then when Tina Fey, Maya Rudolph, and Amy Poehler just start riffing as like a pseudo like monologue because it was just a longer riff before they actually did their awards. That was well because that was just funny. And I think that's kind of just the theme of this is whether it was good presenter combos or off the cuff stuff like Samuel Jackson's Nick's reference to Spike or their embrace when Spike won. That basic chemistry, that basic humor that a lot of presenters have, whether it's with people in the audience or their fellow presenter, is really all you need, I think. And this show moved pretty briskly. Like, yes, it took 3 hours 15 or so, but I felt it moved really fast. We had the songs, we had the in memoriam, all those are expected. The very first movies montage in the beginning, which was focused on 2018 movies, and then the Queen performance in the beginning. I think that was really it, besides apart from awards presentations. So as a result, I didn't feel like any speeches were rushed or cut off, which was good because, again, that's kind of why we're watching this. Mm-hmm. So I thought the whole tenor of the show went really well. It just had an anticlimactic final 5 minutes.
Yeah, I agree that no host, no problem. I actually think it actually benefited from not having a host because you got to see a little bit of character from the presenters a little bit more. Guillermo del Toro at the end I thought was really great. Javier Bardem was really awesome when he spoke. I really, and like even when Regina King won, she kind of tripped going up the stairs. Like, you got to see Chris Evans like step up and like show some personality. And I feel like people just kind of felt like because there was no host, everybody got to kind of play a part in like making this a show. Yeah. I think that actually worked to their favor. I do wonder because like in other years where Queen isn't the subject of a movie, or you don't have a Gaga Bradley Cooper performance to be pumping for 2 hours into the broadcast, if they'll be able to go without a host. But I do think that this kind of changes the game of like, you don't need a host to be as involved as they usually are. You don't need the skits where they go to a theater and they had like the live.
Here's real people and famous people together. Right. We're all the same.
Right.
No, it's good. We're good on that.
Yeah. It's going to be scaled back a little bit. However, Maya Rudolph, Tina Fey, and Amy Poehler together, like just give them all the hosting gigs. Like they're just so great together, those three. Absolutely. But, throughout the night, I thought the show went very smoothly, and I thought the people who won the awards for the most part, I couldn't. There were maybe a couple here and there I was disappointed. Minding the Gap, especially, I was pretty bummed at, but we kind of knew Free Solo was making the charge during the award season, so it wasn't a huge surprise. And like I was hoping First Man would get maybe a couple more technical awards, but they did get one, so
Yeah.
that's good. No Infinity War though, which is like a sad byproduct of that award. But then we get to the end of the night, and I guess this is the place I feel like we have to start, because Green Book won for Best Original Screenplay. They won for Best Supporting Actor, Mahershala, who was airing the season finale of the show. He'll probably win the Emmy for this year, which is crazy. He's just on this amazing run these past 3 years. But then Green Book out of nowhere at the end. We were even texting minutes before. We were like, okay, it's Bohemian Rhapsody, Black Panther, or Roma. It's got to be one of those three.
Yeah.
And then Green Book, I literally was like, holy shit. Like, are you serious?
Yep. And
Where
that was the
at?
thing. Like last week when we did the predictions episode, which obviously no need to watch that now, but thank you for everyone who did. That did pretty well for us. We were thinking Roma or Green Book. Definitely likely. I did not think Bohemian Rhapsody had a chance last week. I was starting to question myself when they went 4 for 4 on their down ballot awards, plus including Rami. But then Best Black Panther tonight did really well as well. So I was like, all right, Black Panther probably stepped past Green Book here. Green Book has been quiet. I guess that screenplay award was an early sign, but yeah, it really came out of nowhere for me. And frankly, I thought the crowd reaction was pretty muted, which it's kind of not good. Like everyone's like, oh no, let's get that La La Land envelope action going again, because
right.
Like we've talked ad nauseum about the issues with Green Book and how it's, despite being a film that's well made, and which is not something you can say about Bohemian Rhapsody, Green Book is like the movie about racism for old white men to make them feel good. It has a bad message, right? We've talked to this at length, but the fact that it wins after having a relatively quiet night, it won 3 awards, and like Favorite was tied for most noms. I didn't expect Favorite to win that much, only won once, but God, I mean, I was legitimately shocked when it happened, despite last week definitely entertaining the possibility, but throughout the night, it just didn't feel like that's where we were going. Frankly, I really thought Rome was going to get it done, which is disappointing because Rome was fantastic. Green Book is not. Here we are.
I felt like, especially when Cuarón got the Best Director, which we kind of knew was a lock, but I was like, okay, like the awards are falling in place the way that most of them should be. I mean, Coleman was a surprise, a really pleasant surprise, and that's my one call that I can really take credit for. That was, but like I was like, okay, gotta be Roma, gotta be. And then when Green Book got called, man, it was interesting because I really paid attention to who was in screen. I was watching with my girlfriend Julianne, who hasn't seen the movie, and I've just kind of talked to her about like why this would be a problematic winner. And I said to her, I was like, like it didn't have the input from anyone that was Black. I mean, Mahershala Ali, from all the stories leading up to it, seemed to really have more of an impact on how the story played out and how some of the scenes played out throughout. Right. But really, it lacked that voice that I think would have brought some more levity to the script, and it really just played like Driving Miss Daisy 2, that black savior type of, or the white savior type of deal.
Yeah.
And she was like, wow, you only have one black person on the screen right now. It was Octavia Spencer, who was kind of just like in the fray. Mahershala was like, he was like off to the side. He's like, yo, I gotta catch that True Detective finale. I'm off. Like, I'm out of here, dog.
And what did Fairley say? And Vigo, man, Vigo got this done. Without Vigo, we wouldn't be here today. And it's like, dog, you haven't learned anything. Come on, bro. And this is the culmination, because again, those two have equal screen time, but they campaigned it so Vigo would be lead and Mahershala would be supporting. Like, that's kind of been under talked about, but that was also crap. And I guess we should have known, because they won. It won a Best Original Screenplay. Most people thought The Favorite would probably win that, or maybe Roma would if Roma's going to have a big night. I really didn't see a winning screenplay at all. Even the Vice screenplay, I think could have won that. So that was definitely a flag. We had all these these false alarms of Bohemian Rhapsody winning for sound stuff. Which
is also ridiculous. I mean, like those sound stuff's fine. The editing is egregious. Like
Yeah.
just absolute.
Best film editing is like insulting to editors,
Yeah.
which is weird because the editing guild awarded it. I just don't understand why. Like, is it solely because they took over the film from Bryan Singer and they like pieced together cuts? Is that really what we're voting for? It just doesn't make sense because everyone's seen that viral clip of how horrendously made some of these scenes are. And the fact that like it's not best editing, it's just most editing. That's the overworked joke today. Like,
Yeah.
God,
Shout out.
but yeah. The point is that Bohemian Rhapsody was getting everyone distracted from Green Book's fucking inevitability. That's
Well,
crazy.
it was Green. It was Green Book was surprising, but Bohemian Rhapsody, like you said, was rising, and so was Black Panther. I mean, they won for best makeup, best costume. I think it was set
Production design. Yeah,
production design as well.
that was
So
unexpected. And score.
yeah, so they were really rising. And I was like, maybe Black Panther's gonna get this done. You know, with the way things have been going leading up, I feel like Black Panther would have been like the perfect pick for like to cap off and like really make this award show be a really really good one. And Hispanic really still doesn't get it. Like they still rely on these movies that are supposed to make white people feel good about being white and like cure that white guilt in some sense, and they just love it for some reason, and it's really disappointing. I so want to see how the voting went down, and we should be able to see this because I wonder how close this was. I feel like this has to be probably one of the closest races in recent years. Picture. Why don't we jump into some of the other awards? What surprised you or what stood out to you throughout the night?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Avengers. Best visual effects going to First Man. I thought if First Man was going to win anything, it would probably be sound editing, but that Bohemian won both the sound awards, and that's great to see. But Avengers: Infinity War, I was like, oh damn, I thought they kind of had that, but Black Panther won more than we expected. Those are actually Marvel's first Oscars. Funny enough,
Crazy.
DC won the Suicide Squad for makeup. So. Good for them, I guess. Not that Disney really needs the help, but that was unexpected. I mean, I was really happy to see every Best Picture nominee get something, as well as Beale Street and First Man. Yep. I was actually really worried. I was like, oh fuck, The Favorite tied for most nominations at the night and is the only one who doesn't get anything, and then Coleman wins at the very end. I was surprised by that.
Yeah.
That was great. But speaking to the Black Panther moment that was happening when they were winning more awards than we spot, especially score. Like we were like, no Hurwitz and score, Bertel. Beale Street, he's gonna win this, no problem. Nope, Goranson wins for Panther. And like
crazy.
I mean, score is a stacked category, but did not see that coming. But also the point where I was like, oh shit, maybe Shallow doesn't win. Maybe All the Stars wins for original song. Like I
got nervous.
That didn't happen, obviously, and that was the only award Stars Born wins. And man, the lack of the campaign for First Man is one thing, but the way Star is Born really fizzled out this award season is definitely going to be looked back on because that's a movie we know is going to age well. And Cooper did the singing and the writing, and Rami did really good karaoke. Like it's going to be crazy to look back on, Yeah,
there were so many that I feel like we kind of knew going in. Rami won, Regina King, Mahershala, Spider-Verse, Koran. Coleman was such a pleasant surprise, and she showed so much real emotion. I mean, she's given great speeches throughout this award season, but really, she's just a delight every time she gets behind the mic. So please give her more awards just to see what she says. In kind of looking through the ones that like surprised me or stood out, the First Man Love I really liked, which won for visual effects. I had, I think, picked that and hoping it would win for like sound editing or sound mixing, like grabbing one of those. Just because it really deserved such a good film technically. And that's what we talked about in our review, was how good technically this film was, but maybe didn't hit all the marks in terms of like crowd pleasingness. The cinema score, I think, was a little bit lower when we talked about it.
Yep, it was.
Spider-Verse, I was really happy with. I mean, that film, I think, could have even gotten a Best Picture nomination for how much love it's gotten. You had a great tweet about it, too, how it went from being a film I think a lot of people weren't so sure we needed to being one that really blew up.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because this was a stacked year. Like, it beat Incredibles 2. When Incredibles 2 came out in May, June, whenever it was, everyone's like, oh fuck, this is fantastic as a sequel, as an action movie, as an animated film, as a Pixar movie of their high standards. This is it. This is everything. And we also had Wes Anderson release an adult animated movie
Yep.
earlier in the year, which is well liked. The fact that Spider-Verse comes at the end of the year, and which again ad nauseum everyone's discussed, so original and triumphant and really spoke to a lot of people. It's just crazy, and I'm really happy that it got recognized. But again, we saw this coming because everyone else was giving it the awards too, which is good for them. Lord and Miller, they actually got an Oscar now.
Yeah.
I think those guys know what they're doing. Generally speaking, I think we can say that safely now. It's funny, like a lot of the words that we thought were obvious, like did happen, but man, it's funny. I got freaking killed on my ballot, bro. I got 9 wrong. I only got 15 out of 24 right. I was like feeling pretty good about most of this. Like I fucking on the back page on the down ballot, see all these X's, bro. You can't see it. I got fucking crushed.
Yeah,
Bohemian Rhapsody and Panther killing me.
I'm looking through. I mean, yeah, the backside was tough. The backside was really tough. I think the front was easier, although
Yeah,
I had Roma over Green Book. It's interesting to think about what the legacy of this Oscars will be. Because
right.
a lot of the talk afterwards is obviously about Green Book, and I think rightfully so. You have probably 2 or 3 films in there. I think A Star Is Born, Black Panther, and Roma, obviously. Maybe even The Favorite could be put in there, and maybe even Black Klansman that I think will age a lot better than that. Vice, I don't think will age that well either. And Bohemian Rhapsody, I really don't think will age well. I think Rami's win, though I'm super excited for Rami. I think people look back at that and be like, really? Like over Bradley Cooper and Christian Bale and Vice? Like that's a crazy win. I think that the legacy of this Oscars in a lot of sense is going to be that for a show that could have gone a lot worse, it wasn't that bad, but the final award just really missed the mark. And I really think A Star Is Born not getting more love. I really think Adam Driver not beating Mahershala Ali, even though we also love Mahershala, is going to look bad in the long run. I think there's going to be a lot of wins that we're going to be like, it seems a little strange. Although next year when Adam Driver is winning for Kylo Ren, I don't think we'll be too concerned.
Well, it's funny. Like Mahershala, this is his second win in supporting actor in 3 years. Obviously, one for Moonlight, and he's the first Black actor to win supporting actor twice, straight up. So good for him, obviously.
Crazy.
But like Rockwell being nominated back-to-back years, Mahershala being nominated once again so quick. Like those are good performances, but they're not like fantastic ones. Meanwhile, like Richard E. Grant, he campaigned a lot, and I think that's a performance that will be looked back on fondly for sure. And Driver, like again, like he's just like one of the greats we have right now, and we're just gonna look back and say like, oh yeah, Driver got nominated like 30 times and never won until now. Similarly, like Glenn Close, she's now 0 for 7. But I think this actually is an interesting moment. We'll see if this sticks, but this could be an inflection point for the career award, the Better Late Than Never award, coming through. Spike did not win for director over Cuarón. Cuarón was the better choice. Coleman, and in my opinion, Gaga as well, were better than Close. Close should have won for Fatal Attraction. She didn't. But that doesn't mean we should award her now for The Wife. The movie wasn't that good, but also her performance was good, not great. There was better ones out there. I think we can consistently pick the best awards. It'll just look, movie fans will be more appreciative of that, and the award show will age better, But that being said, they also gave it to Green Book. So who knows? That's the problem when there's 8,000 people voting on this from all walks of movie making life. You spoke about the awards breakdown. I would love to see the branch breakdown. Like, who was the biggest supporter of Green Book? We know they won the PGA. The PGA Producers Guild Award predicted like I think 8 of the last 10. Like it's a very consistent predictor. Who else likes it besides the producers? Because we know the actors really like Black Panther. We know the editors like Bohemian Rhapsody for some reason. So like, who was like Green Book's base?
Right.
And like preferential balloting, maybe that was how it was done. Maybe Green Book was second and third all over the place. I don't know. But I think overall the time of the show, went well. I mean, a lot of women won, a lot of firsts happened. The love got spread out. So I'm still happy with it. And Green Book is not Bohemian Rhapsody. Like a Bohemian Rhapsody shouldn't have been in the category, period. So the fact that that didn't win is better. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. It's actually funny because I was just thinking about what sums up this award show the best. And I actually, what I keep coming back to is when Bette Midler performed the song from Mary Poppins. And I turned to my girlfriend and I was like, you have Lin-Manuel Miranda and Emily Blunt, who are like two of the hottest celebrities in the world right now. People, like everybody knows them, and you put Bette Midler up to sing these songs, like you're going in the right direction, but you're still just missing the mark by a step or two here. Like you should just put them on stage.
And what's funny because when they like introduced her as Miss B, I was like, Miss B, is that Emily Blunt? Is that what we're talking about right now?
Right. Yeah.
I didn't know it was Bette Midler coming, so I was just taken aback by that.
Right. And Bette Midler is great. I don't want the Bette Midler hide to be coming after me after this podcast drop.
They'll be in the comments.
Yeah. But like for real, you have these two people who you could have just put out there and it's like everybody would have been tweeting about it. It would have been a big deal and the engagement would have been off the chart. And they put Bette Midler out there and it's like just like a miss by a little bit. Like, okay, Bette Midler's still great, but you had these other two. And I feel like that's how this award show just went. Like you were so close to like having like the right stuff for a lot of this. And they just missed here and there enough to make it feel like, maybe the Academy doesn't really get it. Even thinking about how we're talking about the breakdown, they had Laura Dern come out for 5 seconds to show this museum they're building to the Academy. And I'm like, God damn, you got Laura Dern. You got to be honest, but I mean, I'd like to check it out, but like, I'm wondering how much different it'll be from any other studio tour at this point. Like, it's gonna be a Hall of Fame, I guess. I don't know. Am I gonna be able to see Green Book next to all the other great winners? Like,
we good on that one?
Yeah, no, I don't want. Yeah, don't put them in the hall. But I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see how this one ages. The Ringer 5-year Oscars, I think, are going to look too fondly on these results in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's I like to see how well Klansman ages because that's all in the same category for type of screenplay as Star is Born and Beale Street. And everyone's really happy that Spike's first win. He had been nominated for Do the Right Thing in that in the screenplay category before, but we'll see how that one ages. But
just a great moment.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think like Samuel's joke about it, their embrace, his speech. We found out later he cursed in the beginning about not wanting to get cut off, which is great. It's just genuine, and we like to see that from famous people we kind of get to know from afar, obviously as strangers. Yeah. I'm thinking like because all the Best Picture nominees won something, Spider-Verse won, Beale Street won, First Man won as well. What is like the best movie that was nominated that didn't win anything? Like First Reform didn't win screenplay. It's one nomination. Quiet Place didn't win sound editing. Isle of Dogs didn't win. Minding the Gap didn't win. I guess that's the choice. There's nothing like obvious, of stuff that was nominated.
Cold War.
Oh, that's right. Cold War. That's definitely the most nominated one that didn't win. Yeah.
Cold War probably is one that comes to mind. Also, they didn't do a lot of those like montages that they usually use to fill
just
time.
The first one in the beginning.
But honestly, watching that, I'm just reminded how charming Robert Redford was, and the fact that Willem Dafoe got nominated over him. If you're gonna give one of those two a nomination, like just give it to Redford.
Hawk, dog, come on.
Yes, that's probably the one that should have gotten more nominations. First Reformed, like.
Yep.
How does that not win any? I don't know. Looking back, I think that's not going to be a good look for this one either. Overall, not bad though. Like this felt like it was going to be a crash and burn scenario, and maybe a couple of parts fell off the plane, but overall, a decent show. So shout out the Oscars. I think that we're going to look back on this at least in changing the way that they use hosts and utilize them moving forward. Any last thoughts on the show tonight or anything you wanted to shout out?
Yeah, I mean, even though Roma didn't win Best Picture, Cuarón still won Director of Foreign Film and Cinematography. He still got a lot of recognition. Also funny that Netflix, and I was just in LA, and I saw all the billboards, which is really cool to see in like West Hollywood and stuff. I saw Netflix going hard for Roma. Meanwhile, they drop a teaser of sorts for The Irishman in the middle of the broadcast. Scorsese's upcoming film. So, yeah, overall, I was pretty happy with it. So, could have been way worse.
That TV spot for a Lion King too. So, which looks, I mean, gonna be incredible.
I was also hyped about that Cadillac commercial that kept playing because it had Me and Your Mama from Donald Glover and Gambino playing, and I was like, I forgot how much I love this song. Yeah.
I had the same exact response. Every time I came out, I was just like headbanging with the yep. So good. Yeah, overall, a really enjoyable night. However, Nowstalgia Pod is not just going to be leaving you for the week because we got that True Detective finale. We had Desus and Mero premiering on Showtime this past week, and we have a shitload of music to get
so
to.
Much,
like, I haven't even like gotten halfway through that Gary Clark Jr. yet. Got a lot to go on that.
Hour 12, Doug. Come on.
So, check us out on Tuesday. Spread the love. Give us that 5-star rating and review on iTunes, and let us know what you thought about this Oscars. I think it's one that people will be talking about quite a bit. We want to hear what your thoughts are, and help us know what to be bringing you for the rest of the year. Movies in 2019. I mean, we got 2 huge movies that could both potentially be nominated next year in different ways. We got Star Wars Episode 9 and Infinity War, and a lot of other like not as big movies.
Endgame, you mean?
Endgame. I'm sorry, Endgame. And a lot of other small movies, but from bigger directors coming out. I mean, we got Tarantino, Scorsese, like next 2020 Oscars.
There's crazy. Yep.
Gonna be nuts. So we'll be bringing it all to you. Tune in, subscribe. We'll see you on Tuesday. What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod. We're giving you your weekly look what's going on in pop culture. My name is Pat Sheen. I'm here with my co-host Dave Martinson. Dave, I hear that you went to a concert on Monday.
Yes, sir. Saw Vince Staples for the first time. Actually, wanted to see him back in 2016, but Governor's Ball was rained out that day. Hadn't got to see him
remember
since.
Well.
But yeah, really fun show. He was pretty quick, just going song to song, not a whole lot of banter. Did all the usual suspects primarily, but he did Blue Suede, which is cool. That was one of the older songs. That was probably the old song he did. And it's funny when at the end, one of the food vendors outside was like talking to people. And he's like, "Yeah, that guy in there, pretty good. You know, kind of more of an old school flair, right? Like I watched a little bit, and you can understand what he's saying. It's refreshing." And everyone's like, "Yeah, sure, yeah, man, okay."
Interesting. What song got the crowd going the most?
You know, I think he started off with Feels Like Summer, but I think the first one that really popped was Big Fish, probably like 4 songs in. Bag Back got a good reaction, ended with North and Yeah Right. And at the end he's like, Boston will be back. Maybe we won't. We'll see. Rest in peace, Mac Miller. Then he walks away. I'm like, all right, cool. That's cool, because I remember he always cited Mac and Schoolboy Q as the artists that helped him become a good performer. And I will say he was a good performer, very energetic. Didn't use a background track or anything, which is always great, because I know a lot of rappers obviously do that especially when they're coming up. But then he, set everyone out with Mac Miller's Tiny Desk on his video wall, which was really cool, because like everyone like stopped as they were walking out, turned around, pulled out their phones for that. So that was a cool moment to end it on. And I will say his video wall was really cool. It's just a simple wall, but it was projected as all these different CRT TV screens, and they're effectively just different video feeds. A few of them were of the crowd, a few of them were of Vince, other things were just various B-roll that would change and stuff. So it was pretty cool visual. So yeah, overall it was a really fun show. And
nice.
Buddy opened up. I literally had just seen Buddy there open up for Ferg, but he was good again. So yeah, love Vince, and really happy to finally check that one off.
Well, it sounds like overall it was a great show. We have a lot of music to talk about today. So before we get too far into it, just want to say if you're listening and you are not subscribed to Nostalgia, go to soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod and you can find any way to follow us, subscribe to us, listen to us, and give us that 5-star rating and review on iTunes. We appreciate all the feedback and support. So we're doing a little bit of catch up here. We haven't really talked to music in a couple weeks, been mostly movie obsessed.
Oh
Check
yeah.
out our Oscar pre and post podcast. But why don't we start with Gunna? Drip or Drown 2. Dave, can you give me a little bit of background on Gunna?
Yeah, Gunna actually had a pretty quick rise. Really started to get a lot of attention at the beginning of 2018 with Drip Season 3, which was, as the name suggests, only his third tape or fourth tape. And the song Sold Out Dates got a lot of love. And if you listen to Drip or Drown 2, you probably get a sense of what Gunna is. He's a Atlanta trap artist in the vein of Young Thug. He's actually signed the Thug, which is very ironic, and blew up more at the end of last year when his Little Baby Cloud of project Drip Harder came out. That album did like 120 first week, was a huge streamer. Drip, the title track, Drip Too Hard was the big hit off that. And yeah, he just kind of rose quickly to the stature of Little Baby almost. And Drip or Drown 2 is predicted to sell like 80,000 first week, which is kind of unexpected, but that's quite a lot for just another mixtape of his. It kind of speaks to how many people are actually checking him out. And I've never been too much of a fan, and that certainly hasn't changed after listening to Drip or Drown 2. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not very familiar with him, but I gave this a listen, and I nothing really stood out to me. It seemed to be just kind of very homogeneous throughout, and especially just the energy level didn't really ever seem to like jump out to me. We're about to talk about Little Pump in a second, and Frizz. I think Gunner's a lot better technically than Pump, but I think that what Pump brings on his albums is this sense of excitement and fun, and even if it's ignorant and stupid, it at least like gets you moving sometimes.
Yeah.
And Gunner just kind of kept me at baseline the whole time. I feel like I never really got going in one direction or the other. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's weird because like there was that meme, the Shaq meme going around about him being way better on his features, and he had that one feature on Metro's song that actually I think is pretty good. It's just weird because he definitely brings more energy when it's the only song you're hearing on the project of his when it's feature. But yeah, on this it's like I think it starts off decent, but then like the beats just get really blasé and the verses feel samey, and it's like, all right, well, I've heard all this before. It's not like he's gonna enlighten me about anything. And if there's not enough energy, the beats aren't that cool, what am I really listening for? And like I've never been like the biggest Little Baby fan either, but after listening to this and catching up on all Little Baby stuff recently, I gotta say I think Little Baby's way more interesting. Um, and yet they're both less interesting than Thug, which is the weird thing because like these guys are like selling more than Young Thug when they're clearly just his offspring when it comes to like what they do in rap. It's
Mhm.
kind of disappointing because I think Thug's way more interesting. But yeah, I think Drip or Drown 2 definitely skippable. I mean, even if you're a big Gunna fan, this has to feel disappointing. I don't know like what the big hit's supposed to be off this.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at Spotify, I guess One Call and Speed It Up seem to be the songs that have jumped out off of this.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know though.
outstandings on Rap Caviar right now. Take that as what you will.
Yeah, but the thing is, he's got a hive, man. His sales are comparable to Offset's after this weekend. Pretty crazy
Yep.
considering Offset isn't an established group like Migos. So uh, I think Gunna can probably bounce back and have a much better effort. I think this is just fell flat, and sometimes that happens. Lil Pump, though, moving on to his next album, Harvard Dropout. I mean, 2017, Lil Pump, his debut album comes out.
Mhm.
Uh, he's been jumping around as I think he's the flat water, right? So he's like Fiji water and Kanye's Perrier or something like that when they
Is that
perform. I
right?
love
Yeah, I
it.
think so.
Yeah. So I mean, he's kind of he's just stupid.
Mhm.
And I mean that's kind of the shtick, right? Like Harvard dropout, he spells it wrong, but now apparently he's giving the commencement speech to Harvard graduates. I don't know. Very interesting. Um, he's probably one of the SoundCloud rappers that has come up and been successful, but I think his success is a little bit puzzling to people in terms of um, it's obvious that he's not great technically, and just as a rapper, I don't know if he's very skillful, but he makes songs that are just kind of fun. And
Mhm.
I think you hear a lot of songs that are just kind of fun on this album, but I don't know if it's as fun as his debut. What did you think?
Yeah, I think that's pretty spot on. It's the music he makes now, the music or he used to make. They both, like you said, they're just kind of ignorant songs. I mean, he's only now 18. He was very young when he first started blowing up, obviously with Boss and D Rose, and then later with Gucci Gang. And it's funny because he has like slightly progressed. Like I feel like the hooks are like a little more refined this time. It's not just Gucci Gang or D Rose, D Rose, D Rose. Like there's a little more going on now, given the bar was so low technically. But I think the beats are like less like uh I don't know how you say it, uh frenetic. Like they were like really like showy and like energetic, like beats that really fit his like here's a new young Florida kid, right? And
Yeah.
now you listen to Harvard Dropout, which is spelled wrong because of legality things with Harvard University, of course. And it's like, oh, it's almost like this is like more refined and thus less interesting because Pump's never gonna wow you lyrically or technically. Thus the beats need to be really fun and the songs just need to be dumb and ignorant. And the songs are so dumb and ignorant. I just think they stand out a little less because they feel a little more attuned to the rest of uh like that SoundCloud scene, which is funny because it doesn't really sound like the SoundCloud anymore. Like D
Mhm.
Rose and Boss, like songs. I'm not really that big a fan of those songs, but you can't really knock like the way that bass hits, you know.
Mhm.
And even a song like Gucci Gang is just ridiculously catchy, and like a song that
Yeah.
when everyone heard it, we're like, this song is trash, and then we're like, oh wait, this song's gonna be like number 3 in the country because you can't stop listening to it. And now on this new one, like I really like Butterfly Doors, but that
Mhm.
also sounds less like other Little Pump songs. It sounds like other stuff. I just think it's actually like the beat's fun and his verses are fun. Um, but other than that, I think it's pretty flat. Like I don't like. There's some like I think my favorite songs on this, apart from Butterfly Doors, are when he's just being really stupid again, like "Be Like Me" or "Off
Mhm.
White," where it's like the hooks are ridiculous, the punchlines are really dumb, and he's just kind of doubling down on his shtick. But overall, I thought a lot of the songs uh, just kind of left me wanting more. Songs like "Racks on Racks," songs like "Vroom Vroom Vroom." Like I don't know, like it's tough when you waste like the beats that are actually good on this because the hooks stink or whatever. But yeah, I was moderately let down, honestly. Even though I mean it's Little Pump, it's not like I'm asking for Pimp Butterfly here, but you know he's lean-addled, dyslexic, uh, various criminal charges. Yet I just want him to be good still, and he was only kind of good this time. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a lot of thoughts on him because I've never really taken him very seriously as an artist. I mean, kind of, I don't know if it's fair to compare him and Tekashi 6ix9ine, but I see them both as just kind of like these like personalities in a way that use rapping as a vehicle for attention, and
Sure.
I think Pump is able to make songs that people at least want to listen to again, like you said, like Gucci Gang. And I think there's a couple on here that I would consider going back to. I thought Too Much Ice was pretty good. Quavo I thought was decent on that. Um, I love it for some reason. It's just like one of those stupid
Yep.
catchy songs that like you can just bob
Yep.
your head to.
Good verse from him. I like his verse on that.
Yeah, I think that's actually a decent one. And let's see, what was the other one I had here that stood out? Oh yeah, Butterfly Doors, like you said. I think that's a pretty okay song. So I think he's obviously better, but he's just a vehicle for attention. He's not a serious rapper, and that's what he's gonna be. And I'm okay with that. Like let Pump be him, and he can be stupid and ignorant, and I'll check out his album every year, and I won't take much away, but I'll probably be like, yeah, that one or two songs was fun. That's where I'm at with him.
Yeah, it's funny. It's projected to do like 47,000 first week, which is obviously way less than Gunna and Offset, and frankly, should be disappointing for him because given that Gucci Gang was a huge hit, Esket was like 20 something on the chart when that dropped last year. He's a proven driver of streams. Butterfly Door's been pretty successful as well. You'd think more people would be checking out his album, considering they're listening to his singles. Maybe he's really truly just a singles artist. I'm not sure. And now, if you're paying attention, he's selling like you know how like Travis and Nicki did all these like things to game their album sales by like tour bundles or merch bundles, stuff like that. He's doing like an Esket chain bundle right now that costs like $7, but it's bundled with the album. So we'll see how much that drives the total sales for the week. But he should be disappointed with that. I think you think his profile will be raised enough. The Harvard dropout meme, the delayed rollout. I don't know. I would be disappointed if I was him.
Something I wasn't disappointed by was the Higher Brothers album, 5 stars. We talked about and reviewed the 88 Rising, collaborative album last year, and they were featured on it. And I think one of their songs on there was one of the ones that stood out to us the most.
Nothing wrong. Yep.
Yeah, they're a Chinese hip hop group from Chengdu. They got 4 members: Masai, DZ No, Sai P, and Mello. And I mean, these guys go pretty hard, not only in their sound, but like their music videos are these like ridiculous party music videos for the most part, except for One Punch Man, which is just like this like karate movie, basically. Yeah. Pretty awesome. They switch back and forth between Sichuanese and English at different points throughout, and that can make it, I think, hard to follow at times. But overall, this is, I think, a really strong effort from them, and something that's going to catapult them into the American consciousness of rap, which is really exciting, especially because they had a lot of good features on here, and they're already known. But I think this brings them up to another level. I see you nodding your head, so I'm guessing you like this one.
Yeah, I thought this shit was awesome. Higher Brothers, they just make Chinese trap. Like, it's very simple. Like, they're clearly indebted to the current trap scene here. And of course, I think they're pretty much based here now, like most of the rising artists. But yeah, it's funny because like they bring kind of everything you want from like trap artists. There's 4 of them, but they all have great chemistry. They all can really take turns on the song, the hook or the verse, and they have really inspired feature choices. Denzel Curry, Ski Mask, JID, Schoolboy Q, great picks, and the beats are fun. But like they can just go hard on these songs, and it's just really fun. And I think I agree with what you said. Rich Brian, Joji, Higher Brothers. I think that's 88 Rising. That's their core 3 right now, and I really hope this does well for them because they had Black Cab and then the Journey to the West EP in 2017 and 2018, and didn't get like a ton of mainstream attention, just kind of got like internet love. And I think Made in China was probably one of their first hits because they really started out really just making songs in Mandarin, but they kind of sprinkle in English, and they sprinkle in a lot of English on this as well. And I think also U.S. listeners are more and more receptive to that. Obviously, the rise of Latin music, Bad Bunny, J Balvin, etc., Zuna, like songs that aren't in English do better here than they ever have. I think that could certainly include Asian artists. So I think this is definitely something that probably most people weren't aware of because like this doesn't get like a mainstream push or anything. Like 88 Rising obviously is a indie management label focusing on Asian artists, and they have like Empire distribution. But even Empire is a pretty small, uh, effort in that regard. So this probably wasn't on the top of anyone's release radar on Spotify. So I really hope people check this out as they hear about it. But yeah, I was very, very happy with how it turned out. But I mean, what did you think? Because I mean, you had probably just heard them on the collab tape last summer, right? You weren't too familiar.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, my impression of them on 5 stars is just that they go hard. They're, we talked about Pump, who relies on just being fun and stupid, but these, I mean, from what I could understand of what they were saying, not only were the raps pretty intricate and meaningful in some sense, in a lot of times, but the wordplay and the flow between them was evident. There's a lot of chemistry there, and I think that they were able to make songs and use their features to really bring out the best of the people who are on the features with them, rather than kind of just making them fit into their songs, which I thought was great. Especially like I already mentioned One Punch Man, like Ski Mask and Denzel, I think sound awesome on that. Like, and it's such an energetic song. Like you kind of want to run through a wall after listening to it. I thought Zombie with Rich Brian, and it was produced by Joji. I thought that song was really great. No More was a little bit more like R&B ish, Nicki singing the hook on that, but also excellent. And then obviously Open It Up, which I think is one of the singles off of this. It's just them, and they sound great on that song. So they had all 4 of those songs jumped out to me, but throughout I was like, oh, this is a pretty solid track. So nothing here to really hate, and I can only see them getting better. I think my only concern with them, kind of similar to a group we're going to talk about in a second, is that I could see them, probably branching out and doing solo work eventually, and it's hard to kind of hold these groups together. So as they keep rising, I could see them potentially not staying as the Higher Brothers.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet. We'll see if 88 Rising keeps them together. Maybe their status as foreign artists might slow that as well. But I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Keep an eye out if you start seeing like solo features. That's probably your first sign that it's at least possible. But yeah, I really hope this makes a big foundation for them. But yeah, very happy with this one for sure.
We alluded to Offset. Why don't we jump to Father of Four? Yeah, I don't really have a lot to say about this. I'll let you kind of set the table.
Yeah, Father of Four, Offset's debut solo album, the last solo album of the Migos solo albums. Of course, we reviewed Quavo Honcho and The Last Rocket from Quavo and Takeoff, and of course Culture 2, which dropped at the beginning of last year. This kind of completes that run, right? And
we did it.
Yeah,
we made it.
We did it. There's a lot of the streets were fed. Let's put it that way. And Offset, obviously, he's been in the news a lot, the tabloids, because for his up and down relationship with Cardi B, to say the least. And she, of course, pops up on this. But yeah, when the prospect of the solo albums first started, everyone initially wanted the Quavo album the most, but then like the real heads were like, yeah, but Offset, he's really the best Migo. He'll have the best one. I do think he had the best solo album pretty easily. I don't think it's great though. I think like a lot of this Migos run, unfortunately, is just a little overstuffed and just goes on a little too long. And when he does that, Offset's good technical flow. You understand what he's saying. Goes hard most of the time. Still can get a little monotonous, right? Just like Takeoff's more lyrical, punchliney flow can get a little monotonous when you've heard 30 tracks from him, right? So that's kind of how I felt about Offset by the end. But I think this is a pretty solid project and ultimately ends this run on a high note. I think this is better than Culture 2, I think, and clearly better than the other 2 solo tracks. My hope is that they don't make Culture 3 this year. It's slow down just a second, do features if you want. Offset's features are consistently pretty solid. But yeah, could have been shorter, but I think it was pretty solid. Songs like Legacy with Travis and 21. Always great to hear 21 verse, especially now, but his streak continues pretty strong. And then I really like just solo tracks from the original single, Red Room and Lick. I thought was really cool too. Got a last minute Cole feature on this. So I think there's a lot to like on this. But again, like as a project, as a body of work, it's not the strongest thing in the world. But yeah, I think Offset again proved that he's just probably brings the most to the table as far as Migos members goes right now, at least as long as Quavo continues to phone things in. But I'm also happy to slow down with Migos for a little bit. What about you?
It's interesting as you're talking about what we expected from each one of them. It's almost kind of like Takeoff. We were like, oh, you know what? This is better than I expected. Like you can tell he's kind of coming into his own. And Quavo, you're just kind of like, okay, he's phoning it in. Like we kind of know what we're expecting from all of them. And I think that this album is kind of what I expected. Like it was a solid album that was probably 4 or 5 tracks too long. But that's kind of been the MO for Migos since Culture 2 dropped, is that they're just gonna make these really long albums to get those stream numbers up. And I think Offset is pretty good on this. I think there's a couple of good features. Cole, I was kind of I mean, he's been on a good feature run, but I didn't think that this was his best one. I think Gunna sounded better on Wild Wild West than he did on any of the songs on his album, ironically.
Classic Gunna.
But yeah, Legacy stood out. It's always nice to hear Cardi B. When she came in on Cloud, I was like, okay, like I enjoy hearing Cardi. Other than that, nothing really too much. I guess you're right. Probably Red Room stood out to me as a decent song off this, but I'm just kind of bored with Migos, honestly. I think, I know that they want to stay in the consciousness, keep getting that money. I don't blame them for that, but I think there's a little bit of Migos fatigue for me. And I think probably for a lot of people, they just kind of need a break. So I agree with your sentiment. Take a little bit of time. Make sure that Culture 3 or whatever you name your next album has a little bit more substance to it, a little bit more something to say. Because I do think that they have more to offer than they have been, but I think they're comfortable. They know that this is going to move records. It's going to move money. So why would they change it up? And I think that they can. I think they have enough clout at this point where they can take a chance and try something different, and they're still going to get those numbers up. So,
yeah, I'm thinking like I'm not sure how much of this like feed the streets, streams onus is from them, and also from Quality Control QC, their label, because like QC's whole MO has been to do this with everyone. They did this with Lil Yachty. Lil Yachty put out 2 bad records last year. Lil Yachty, he's someone who definitely needs to focus on what he's good at, figure out what that is exactly, and then focus on that, right? But he wasn't doing that. But it was like, Yachty, put your shit out, man. It'll be fine. But no, it hurts your brand. And Migos, like I let's listen to Offset do his GQ always answered thing on YouTube, and Offset actually he comes across as a pretty thoughtful dude, which is not what I expected because I never really heard him speak too much, but he's pretty well spoken like Quavo. So it's like they're actually pretty smart guys, and obviously they've been businessmen for a while now. So I hope they could recognize that they got to slow down. But I haven't really heard them comment on it one way or the other yet. So tough to be too confident in as long as they're on QC. And in terms of like the thoughtful tracks, like I thought he started off really strong on the sound with Father before the title track, talking about all his kids and how he like struggled being a young dad, being in and out of jail and stuff like that before he was famous. All right, that's genuine, but he kind of loses sight of that throughout the album, of course. So I think kind of like Quavo and Takeoff for that matter, they kind of like scratch the surface of like something more, but they kind of just fall into their old habits because they know they're reliable and will get listened to. So, I really hope Culture 3 or whatever it is really solid because unfortunately Culture 1 is the best thing they've made, and there's been 4 Migos projects since then that aren't as good,
Yeah, it's an interesting point how he really starts off the very thoughtful track on this, and then by the third song, Lick Tats on My Face is number 4. He kind of loses sight of that, and it's actually, I think a bit disappointing because he has his brother or cousin Quavo. Always forget. Cousin. He has his cousin on this who he came up with and became famous with. He's got his on again, off again girlfriend, wife, baby mama, however you want to put it, on a song. And those two songs are clout and on fleek. Like you could have leaned into like that more thoughtful sphere or concept with this and done an album that probably would have been more surprising and a little deeper. But like I said, they keep with what they know, and they know that those kind of songs will move. So it is what it is. Someone that I think gave something a little different, I think a lot different actually, was Czarface meets Ghostface. Ghostface Killah and Czarface, producer 7L, Esoteric, and Inspector Deck. Gave us, they dropped, what was it? Czarface meets Metal Face. Was it last year?
Yep, beginning last year when I left Doom. And they had
that feels like forever.
4 just Czarface albums before that. So they've been also feeding the streets like me.
Yeah.
Just in a different way.
I think the thing that stands out to me most with this is the production though. 7L is chopping. I mean, he is splicing in a lot of especially 90s, I think, content, WWE stuff, some TV, some monologues, some voiceovers, and I think that really adds an element. And also the beats on this just go so hard, and when you got Ghostface rapping over them, it kind of sets your earbuds on fire a bit. I really liked this album, if only because we get a song called Morning Ritual, which literally I was on the bike at the gym listening to it, and I had to stop because I started laughing just listening to it. I thought it was so ridiculous. But what did you think of this Czarface meets Ghostface album?
Yeah, I agree. I think the highlights are definitely 7L's beats. And listening to something like any of the Czarface records, it's just really refreshing these days because obviously it's very old school and dead, especially this one where you literally have 2 Wu-Tang Clan members on it. Obviously, it's going to sound more old school as you're listening to technical rappers rap on non-traditional beats, right? That is naturally going to stand out because there's just less of that being made right now. So that makes sense. But I think that the whole comic book theme that's been on all the Czarface records and obviously leads to the really awesome album covers they have. I think that theme, it is really cool because this lets for really obvious and easy, but also fun and witty punchlines referencing things. When they come in and out, it's just fun to hear because, again, not something that you hear super mainstream, even if things like Naruto and other comic book and manga culture is kind of all over all the young rappers now. It doesn't really float into the music too much. I think what kind of disappointed me with this just a little bit was that INS and Ghostface, I thought they were fine. I wanted to be wowed by the verses more. Yes, they've been in the game a long time. Everyone here is an elder statesman, including Esoteric, but I don't think any of these songs are super amazing. I really like Face Off. I liked Listen to the Color. Morning Ritual, he said, is pretty good too. But I think sometimes this could also feel a little samey in a different sense than Offset or Lil Pump. It's or Gunna. It's even though they're technical and tactical in their rapping, it can sometimes kind of just mold together if nothing's really rising above the pale to stand out, whether it's a good punchline or a really hot verse or something. So I think it's not quite as good as Czarface meets Metal Face, but it still has a high floor because it's technical and the beats still bump, and it's unlike most things you hear these days. So I still think it's absolutely worth hearing for sure.
Yeah, and I think like you said, and I alluded to at the beginning, the 7L's production is definitely the highlight of this, and songs like King Heard Voices and Super Soldier Serum, I thought the beats on that were literally earbud in Fuego, just crazy.
Hmm.
Especially like King Heard Voices. It has this really hard beat, but then he brings the strings in to like create this like I don't know, kind of like spooky, eerie vibe to it. And even though I agree that sometimes the rapping can sound kind of samey on this, there is something about hearing uh, Ghostface and Inspector Deck just like going in over this. Like I don't know, just really it's really enjoyable. And I mean, I think I prefer that technical kind of rapping to something like Pumped, who we talked about before. Just because you at least feel like it's not causing you to lose too many brain cells in that moment. But yeah, I mean, overall, I thought this was really enjoyable. I would really recommend it. If not, nothing more than for the production. Um, a couple weeks ago, before we knew that uh, that we were going to be recording on this Tuesday, because I think we were planning to record on Monday, we were like, yeah, we got a lot of music, got True Detective. Something we weren't counting on was Kehlani to be dropping an album. And
Hmm.
she announced that, I think it was last week, just kind of out of the blue, like, hey, I got a mixtape coming out for you all. And this mixtape is titled While We Wait, which is appropriate in two senses. I think we're all waiting for her to create her follow-up album to Sweet Sexy Savage from 2017. But she also made this mixtape while pregnant. And
Hmm.
it kind of fits for her theme of she's waiting for this next stage of her life and for this person or this little baby to enter the world. So pretty exciting. You know, I think if I remember right, you really liked Sweet Sexy Savage. Um, I'm
Yeah.
wondering, did you like While We Wait as much?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually like been aware of Kalani like basically the whole time she's been an artist. Cloud 19, her first mixtape came out in 2014. She's only 24 now, so do the math. She was very young when that came out. And then her song "Fuck with You," which has a music video, that was like her first single. Really, I really like that track. Um, and then "You Should Be Here," her second mixtape in 2015, had "The Way with Chance," which was also a pretty big hit for her. Um, and I think if I remember right, because she's from Oakland, and I'm pretty sure like G-Eazy was just bigging her up at the time as a fellow Bay Area artist, and that's how I became aware of her.
Mhm.
But yeah, then she again kind of started getting a lot of attention quick. She was in a relationship with Kyrie Irving. Um, her song "Gangsta," the Suicide Squad soundtrack, was a gigantic hit. Um, she had "Good Life" with G on the Fast 8 soundtrack, another big hit. And then "Sweet Sexy Savage," yeah, I think that was probably her best project before this one, anyway. Songs like "Crazy" and "Distraction" were really good singles. You can really put
Mhm.
those on at any time. But overall, like as an R&B artist with some pop flair as well, I think she just kind of has always stood out in terms of like what she brings to the table. Just kind of feels like a unique blend of those genres. And I think While We Wait kind of continues that sentiment. Whether it's kind of tackling smart themes like Morning Glory, for example, on this, where she's kind of
Mhm.
talking about uh like acceptance of like people's true selves and stuff through the guise of uh you better like how I look in the morning, or we ain't
Mhm.
doing this. Like yeah,
Yeah.
it's just all just it's pretty smart stuff. And meanwhile, it's really smooth, silky R&B tracks.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
thought While We Wait as a surprise, effectively filler mixtape, right? Um,
Mhm.
exceeded expectations for me for sure. But I mean, was this like the first project of hers you'd really heard?
Yeah, I think I'd given Sweet Sexy Savage a listen. I was at least aware of her songs from it. Maybe I didn't listen to it all the way through. Um, and I mean, she's been in the consciousness. I remember Sweet Sexy Savage came out, and there was a lot of buzz around it. And then when she announced that she was dropping this mixtape, I kind of felt like, I know that she had made a couple of the singles like you had mentioned, but I felt like in a lot of ways she'd kind of taken some time off, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but she kind of fallen out of the public consciousness. I feel like a little bit. And then when this popped up, I got pretty excited because I was like, I know that she's a really quality artist, and she's going to make these R&B songs that are probably going to be at least nice to listen to. But I was really impressed with this album, or mixtape, I should say, because not only was she able to make songs that I think were really catchy and fun, like Nunya, but there's a lot of meaning in these lyrics as well. Like the line on Nunya that probably like drove it home was, "You put on a show because you don't want the world to know that you lost the girl who got it on her own." Like, um, pretty. I mean, for a song that's pretty catchy, like she still is able to drive home like her feelings, the meaning behind it. I thought "Feels," it's like this like pure R&B like pop bubblegum, which uh it's not necessarily the best song on there, but it just kind of gets stuck in my head every time I listen to it, and it's a lot of fun to listen to. And then "Footsteps" is an incredibly meaningful song. Um, Talking about ending of relationships and kind of like leaving footsteps in the mud on her way out, hoping that the person would follow them. She just is. It's really impressive how she's able to take a sound and make it sound pretty slick with the R&B that she chooses to use, but also make these songs that carry meaning and have thoughtfulness behind them. And I think she's a really exciting artist. She's only 23, I believe.
Yeah, it should be 24 in a few months. Yep.
Which is crazy because I feel like she's already produced a couple of albums that are pretty good, but I don't think she's anywhere near her peak.
No. Yeah, I mean, remember last year when Rita Ora, Charlie XCX, BB Rexa, and someone else did that "I Just Want to Kiss Girls, Girls, Girls" song. That got some backlash from the LGBTQ community. And then Kehlani made "What I Need" with Haley Kiyoko as kind of like a response track, but more of like here's like how real LGBT people think about these things, not just oh, let me decide to kiss girls and have fun with that for a time. Like it was the fact that she could like pop that song out like real quick as a response, and like not like a "fuck you guys, this is what I want to do, what we want to hear," but just kind of like here it is, listen to our track instead, you'll understand like where we're coming from. I thought that was like really just kind of showed like her strength in songwriting, as someone who came out as queer and has since become pregnant, but like she's kind of been like her sexuality and her like relationships have been kind of public. Like her fallout with Kyrie did not go well. Kyrie has since apologized for how that went, but knowing what we know about Kyrie now, I'm not that surprised. But apart from all that, like you said, like I think she can really just kind of just drop in and make some exciting music. And meanwhile, like we heard her on Cardi B's album last year on Ring, a song that it's probably towards the bottom of most people's favorite tracks on that album, but she can still bring like a pretty solid, pop feature on that. So I'm really looking forward to her continued career growth, and I assume more features will come. She's kind of hip hop adjacent. Like you got Dollar Sign on this. And she's got a lot of people in her corner. I think having Dom Kennedy as the feature on Nunya was very inspiring. Like I haven't heard from Dom Kennedy in a long time. That's a nice choice. So yeah, I mean for a surprise album that's clearly leading up to another a true album, probably the end of the year or something. Not worth skipping. That's for sure. Very impressed.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect an album from her for a little bit. I mean, she's probably been recording, but I'm guessing, I think she's due to have her baby sometime next month. So I think that might put a bit of a hold on things, but probably end of the year we'll be hearing from her again. Someone I'm wondering how familiar you are with them is Gary Clark Jr.
Yeah, I have never really listened to Gary Clark before, but I always kind of been aware of him. I believe he was at Governor's Ball. One of the times I went, people had mentioned him to me as someone worth checking out. Of course, had some scheduled conflicts, so I didn't do that. But when I saw this album was coming out, and I think it was originally supposed to come out next week or Friday rather, but moved it up a little bit, and I was like, all right, I'll finally jump in and see what this dude's all about. Pretty much blind. I don't think I'd ever really listened to him before. And I was definitely impressed. But I mean, are you a big GCJ fan? Like, have you seen him before?
I can't remember if I've seen it. I would bet I have, probably at Firefly, but if I did, I don't think it was something I was really up front for. I was probably chilling out for. in the back. But he's a really interesting artist. So, he's really well known for his live performances because he is just incredible as a guitarist. And back in 2010, he was hand selected by Eric Clapton to perform at Crossroads Guitar Festival after I think Clapton saw him at like a smaller venue in Texas somewhere. And that really started to propel his rise to stardom. Now, this is his third album. And his first couple albums, Black and Blue from 2012, and then Story of Sonny Boy Slim, they've gotten some notoriety. He's blue, so it's interesting. You think about rock as a dying genre of music in general, and then you really think of blues rock as a dead genre of music. So he's not really playing music that is very popular right now. And I think on this land, he tries to become a little bit more classic mainstream rock, maybe even infusing some like soul R&B sound into it. And I think he does all facets of it pretty well. When he does make a blues song, it's pretty good. When he makes a classic rock song, it's pretty good. And I think that he's willing to try things, which I give him a lot of credit for. I don't know if all of it lands, but I thought overall this was a really solid album. Did you like it?
Yeah, I did like it, and I was actually impressed with how much there's a lot of variety here, and I was like, all right, this is 70-minute album.
Yeah.
Rock artist 2019, asking a lot. But I think the variety, as you spoke to, made it a pretty refreshing listen. And also the fact that, generally speaking, this guy goes fucking hard. You know, the guitar is great. And frankly, we need more of that. And at least for my tastes, I like to hear this hard ass rock. And it's not like that's all he did was just jam out the whole time. As you said, he kind of jumps in and around genres within the sphere, right? And I think like a song like When I'm Gone definitely has like a more like a softer hook. But then you can just follow that up with something else that's equally interesting, whether he just jams more, Yeah. I was really impressed with the variety of hooks, the variety of his vocals, while also appreciating how consistent the guitar work was. So, as someone who was really unfamiliar with what actually was Gary Clark's MO, I'm definitely a fan. I think this is probably, like I can really see myself like slipping in Gary Clark Jr. songs within like a party playlist, and I haven't really felt that way about much rock music apart from like a few like Beth songs and like a few other things here and there. So I think that in terms of like still being true to like rock music as its identity, while also feeling like a part of the current moment, I think is not done often in rock right now. So I was very happy with it.
Yeah, I was actually pretty nervous about how this album was going to go when I heard This Land, the title single, because it's a pretty angry song talking about, how Trump and politics have affected immigration and just what it means to be a person in this country in a lot of ways, especially, coming from Texas. Gary Clark Jr.'s and, kind of around a lot of the debate around the wall and things like that. And it also uses a little bit more like a EDM sound to it, or there's at least a little more electronics in it to produce it. But then he really falls back more into his bread and butter, which is, classic rock, soul, blues, and he does that really well. Whether it's Pearl Cadillac, you already mentioned When I'm Gone, which are more soulful songs. Gotta Get Something comes in. It's a pure, fast-paced, just like guitar slamming song right from the get-go. It just makes you want to like again run through a wall, to bring back a phrase from earlier. But yeah, I think overall, whether he's doing blues, whether he's like on I think it was low down Rolling Stone, I thought was a really good blues song. He's able to move in and out of genres pretty seamlessly, and he's just a really good artist. I'm really excited to see what he does next, and I'm sure it'll be a couple of years before we get another album from him, but he'll be on some features, doing some touring. If you can see him at a festival or a live show near you, I'd really recommend it just because he is a showman. Like, he's awesome live. Check it out. Dave, that does it for us with music. I mean, 7 albums. It's a lot to be going through. And probably the thing I was most excited for in these last 2 weeks is what we're about to talk about, which is Desus and Mero back on Showtime. Bodega Boys in the building, dog.
The
So they
brand
were
is very strong.
obviously, yeah, very strong. And they were what were they on for?
Viceland.
Viceland, and they were, I wouldn't say kicked off, but they basically like broke their contract and decided to sign with Showtime, and then because of that, they weren't on for 10 months, 9 months, something like that.
Yeah.
What did you think of their return?
Yeah, I think it's kind of everything I think most fans, Bodega Hive fans, would want. It's Desus and Mero not compromising who they are or what they do well, but also kind of getting that Showtime bump, if you will. It's like a real set that isn't being used by Viceland executives for meetings when they're not recording. That's nice, I guess. Has a live studio audience, which I think I saw some comments that people weren't as big a fan of it. They preferred the Viceland set where it's just like the producers and people laughing. But I think that live studio audience kind of makes it feel more big time, more respectable, right? And they have a bigger budget, and I think that shines through the most with they have a real writing team now, which is great. I think again, like legitimate late night shows have writers. That's good. But also they're spending that budget on like skits and stuff out of the set. And man, did they pick a great one this week with the Green Book joke. Super on the nose and really funny. And I think that's ultimately the key with Desus and Mero is the dudes have great chemistry and they're just fucking hilarious. And they're hilarious when they're just riffing. But listen to any of the promo they've done for this. It's just really fun because that's just how talented they are. But now they have people actually writing real jokes to their strengths. It's just really exciting. And they've also said that they don't want this to just become a press stop where people promote what they're doing, which is unfortunately what everything else in late night is like right now. I mean, yes, you have like good segments like Seth Meyers' Closer Look and like everyone else their bread and butters, but I think Desus and Mero just focusing on them and having guests that are there to talk with them, right? I think that's really exciting proposition. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the Showtime run because they're definitely moving up, and that's great.
Yeah, and I give them a lot of credit because obviously AOC is a rock star in politics, but I didn't think she was a great guest on here. She didn't bring a lot to the table in terms of like humor, but it kind of allowed them to keep their shtick. And I really thought like the fat heads and the things that they brought to like bring the Bronx to DC was a pretty funny bit. I think what they do really well, and something that especially is difficult in late night right now, is they make you feel like you're laughing with them instead of laughing at something. And I think that's why a lot of times people, I don't know, especially with like Colbert or even Kimmel in some way, they are so politically based in terms of their humor that it can feel just more tiring, like it's more just part of the machine. And they do a really good job of just, like you said, riffing and making you feel kind of like you're just sitting like in a bodega with them, just like shooting the shit. And it's really awesome. I thought the Green Book skit was awesome. They're just they're probably my favorite people in late night, hands down at this point. So late night, I think, is like kind of a, I don't know, stupid, for lack of a better term, like way to like look at TV still. I don't know anyone my age that watches it or any of our peers that do, but if Desus and Mero want to keep that as their lane, I'm here for it. I'll be following them for sure. Any last thoughts on them before we move on?
Yeah, I think the key to watch with them is most of their audience was not really a Viceland subscriber. They were watching it on YouTube, where the whole episode and all the clips will be clipped out after the show aired. Now, Showtime did put the first episode up on YouTube, and they are going to do digital shorts like they do with all their shows. But it'll be interesting to see how much digital content they put out, because that really is the success of late night these days, is catching on with viral clips that catch on later. SNL is kind of the same way. But Showtime still wants you to subscribe. It's not like ABC, which everyone has already, So
Mhm.
I'm interested to see like where that goes in terms of like, do they drive enough Showtime subscribers for the show, or do people largely sit back and just settle for what they get for free? That'll be interesting to watch because they have a younger audience, which generally does
Mhm.
not strictly subscribe for stuff just for one thing. But we'll see how low the fan base is.
Definitely an interesting thought. Let's wrap up though with True Detective season 3. Um, this was we did the first episode or two that
First
came
two, yep.
out, and I think we were both cautiously optimistic about it. You got Mahershala Ali playing Detective Hayes, who is in 3 timelines, but is having memory issues in the last one as he's trying to figure out what happened in the case of the Purcell children who went missing, and one was found dead, the other one, Julie, was never really found. Uh, I thought this season was excellent, and then fell totally flat in the finale for me. Um, it's really funny. We talk a lot about how shows often like the penultimate episode is the best episode of the season. And I really felt that way with this, but I felt that way because it had been leading up with all these questions. There were all these like mysteries. And I kept seeing people saying, oh, this finale is going to have to be 2 hours long with everything that they need to tie up. And then the finale comes and it's pretty much just one guy sits and confesses. And then uh, Hayes has like this one revelation that there was probably some cover up, and that's it. Like that was just it. That there was this one twist, and the twist I don't know if I loved. We'll talk about it in a second, but before we do, your overall general sense of the season. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it?
You're the best. You're the best. Yeah, I liked the season. I thought the direction it ends in was definitely something I did not see. I think most
A
people would
choice.
agree with that. Definitely a choice. I think for what it was doing, I think it was well executed. Just we'll see ultimately how the temperature everyone has with that in terms of uh, that defying of expectations in the 11th hour, how that leaves people. Because like I think having just a monologue at the end where a character, ancillary character, explains everything to the audience and the characters, it's like you're watching that and you're like, oh, I get it. Like, and I don't know about you, but like right as they're about to talk to him, I'm like, I think I know exactly what happened. I feel like most people could piece it together before they get the confirmation, but it's almost a little anticlimactic in terms of like you got all these questions and you kind of get most of them answered or addressed in some way, and yeah, it's not super satisfying for a show that's kind of been leading up to a mystery. Um, things like the peephole, the things like Michael Rooker coming in for a scene as Hoyt.
Yeah,
Like a lot of these red herrings or like false flags in terms of like focus on this. Like even all the occult stuff in the beginning, right?
yeah.
The references
To
to a
ghosts,
pedophile ring, all these things that actually were not
Mhm.
true or didn't matter.
Right?
Um, in hindsight, done well to mislead the audience. I just think that having it ultimately not be focused on the plot is interesting because it did feel like the plot drove a lot of the decision making, even if the show ultimately was more about uh, Dorf and Mahershala's, relationship and Hayes' relationship with Amelia. But I think it's probably a season that'll age well. Um, and I'm really interested to see more of the think pieces on this, just because it's definitely different than season one. You know, and
Definitely.
season one had a backlash of sorts as well. So, uh, you know, I don't know. How did you feel about that final stinger scene where it's like, we get the monologue from Hayes' wife's ghost, literally, to hammer it home. And like they meet and they get the flashback again. And it's like they meet and they kind of just go off the sunset. It's like, oh, wait, they didn't really split. Huh, how about that? Relationships. Nice. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought um I mean it's funny because I guess in a sense the whole finale is a comment, and this is something Chris Ryan of The Ringer brought up, a comment on conspiracy culture. and
Right.
how
True
you
crime.
can, yeah, you can find all these different things, and you can have all these conspiracies about things that are going to happen. In the end, it could just be the simple answer in front of you, and maybe it's not as deep or complicated, or maybe there's not that bigger occult out there that's driving things. Um, but at the same time, it feels so disappointing, and such like a uh, unsatisfying last breath for the show, at least this season, just because like you had the whole thing about who are these ghosts, and they spent so much time on that. Oh, it didn't really matter. Hoyt as this big bad looming, and then he's just kind of like this, I don't know, rundown old man who uh, had as much to lose as Hayes at that point, and really is just like, I wasn't even around for this stuff. Like, I wasn't
Yeah.
involved with this. I just
Be
was,
straight with me.
yeah, blissfully ignorant in a lot of senses. Um, that last scene, I thought was interesting because I never really, I found myself, I think, a little bit more interested in the case rather than their relationship. So then for that to be the centerpiece felt a little bit of a strange choice, but I guess probably upon a rewatch, maybe I would be more interested in their relationships. I do think Dorf kind of comes out of this as the big winner because while Mahershala, I bet will probably, I said on our post Oscars pod, I think he'll probably win an Emmy for his performance. Dorf, I think, is the one that stands out as giving the most surprising and the best performance overall. Um, I actually thought his fight scene was pretty interesting there at the end. Um, you know, I'm still trying to make sense of, I guess, like the stray coming up to him afterwards and what he was really getting out of all this. It's very metaphorical, I guess, just like
Yeah.
wanting to, being the stray, this person who's alone, and wanting to protect Hayes and other people all the time. The way he kind of took care of the Purcell dad as well. So I don't know, the season. I think would need to read a little bit more about it and think about it a little bit more. But overall, I thought that this was a great return to form for it after a season 2 that was problematic and laughable in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I agree. Scoot McNairy continues his
Yeah.
character run on TV, quickly becoming one of the best guys out there. Unfortunately, he as Tom Purcell got a lot more to do than Mamie Gummer got as Lucy. That's a bit of a pitfall for Pizzolatto usually, but I did think Amelia was a very interesting character, especially because we never really were quite too sure where she was going for most of the season, and definitely a step up from detective wife that Michelle Monaghan, I believe, played in season 1. It's definitely a more well-rounded character this time around. And I think, the comments on true crime in terms of what her character did as, writing the book and whatnot, I think is pretty interesting as kind of like a commentary that's a little separate from everything else going on in the show. Yeah, ultimately, I think it's more artistic than I expected because again, the plot really became secondary by the end, and then ending with that Vietnam scene at the end, and like having him just walk into the bush, and really as they started playing with the timelines and Hayes's Alzheimer's or dementia and having to come in and out, I think it's done really well. It's just you have to kind of let go of the conspiracies and the mystery hunting that you might have been attached to as you're watching the season, and they really get you again at the end when they actually show you a picture of Russ Cole and Woody Harrelson from season 1, and you're like, oh, here we go, connection to the pedophile ring. Maybe Woody will show up or something. No, not at all.
Nope.
Actually, would you?
Well, did you like that ending scene where he walks into the brush in Vietnam?
I think that scene's really artistic. The scene I liked a little less was right before where Amelia and Wayne kind of reunite and just kind of walk off into the sunset together.
Yeah. What did you think of the twist with Julie?
Once you know it, it's kind of like, oh, okay. I think in hindsight, though, it's well done because you're really set up to think that she was abused or perhaps sold into sex trafficking or something bad, right?
Mhm.
And you realize that no, it was actually this disturbed woman who wanted to be a mom to someone, right? And it's like,
Mhm.
you know, I don't know if anyone really got there when they first see the hint of the pink room when Scoot discovers it before he gets axed, you know? Um, yeah, something ultimately was pretty well. Just I don't know if having the one-eyed dude just kind of deliver everything in a monologue to these old guys masquerading as cops. I don't know if that's the strongest way to go about the reveal, but yeah, overall I liked the misdirect in terms of how the story actually went.
Shout out my favorite line of the year, where Steven Dorff called him a Cyclops motherfucker. Just the way he delivers lines is so good in this show. Yeah, overall, I thought this was a good season. A lot to think about with the final episode. If nothing else, even if you're disappointed with it, it's at least they made a lot of choices, and it's at least something that's interesting and thoughtful. So, um, I would highly recommend True Detective season 3 to anybody that likes season 1, or if you for some reason like season 2 as well. Definitely check it out.
Mm.
I think if you like season 2, you probably will like this a little bit less, because I think what season 2 does is not even close to as coherent and thoughtful as this one. So, any last thoughts on anything we talked about today before we wrap up, Dave?
No, not really. Got some stuff coming out. I know Better Things is back on FX. The early reviews say it's better than ever. Of course, that's Pamela Adlon sans Louis C.K. now. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Leaving Neverland, that Michael Jackson doc, got some attention at Sundance, especially in light of what's going on with R. Kelly right now. That'll be out on HBO this weekend. So I think those are, especially Leaving Neverland, will definitely get a lot of attention next week, I'm sure. And then music front, nice little diverse slate. Little Sims, the UK rapper, Two Chains, rapper Go to the League, and Hosier,
Mm.
Wasteland Baby. So definitely check out those records. But this is the week before Captain Marvel, so movies are a little lighter. And I know HBO doesn't really have anything going right this moment, but TV will start to pick up again in March. So we'll have plenty to talk about like always.
Captain Marvel reviews are really good so far. Really looking forward to that. So please subscribe to Nowstalgia. So when we review all those things in the future, you get it first. So go to soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod and hit that subscribe button on all of them. Give us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. We love you. We appreciate you. We will see you next week. Peace out.
So the